Andre Dubonnet, heir to the significant Dubonnet Apéritif fortune, was a World War I pilot. He became an ace in the Stork Squadron who flew Spot 8s and powered by Hispano-Suiza engines. After the war, a race car driver for Bugatti and Hispano-Suiza. During this time of racing, he developed an automotive steering and suspension system. The suspension featured an independent coil springs that increased the suspension and reduced the unsprung weight. He put this new Dubonnet suspension on 1932 prototype H6B car that he took to the Paris Motor Show that year, where he sold the idea to automotive manufacturers, including General Motors, Alfa Romeo, Fiat, and Delahaye, to mention a few. Dubonnet decided to further develop his 1932 H6B prototype to integrate the aircraft aerodynamics of the day into a vehicle that he dubbed independent suspension, a car that he would call the Xenia in memory of his second wife. The Dubonnet Xenia used the same brakes as the H6B prototype and streamlined like the later Dauphine. With the help of French designer J. Sauchik, a very aerodynamic car was created using the Dubonnet independent coil spring suspension at all four wheels and using the powertrain of his Hispano-Suiza engine and chassis. This design was intended to improve the comfort and smoothness of the ride, Dubonnet claiming the car was like floating on air. The H6B Dubonnet Xenia began as Andre Dubonnet's personal car after it was finished in 1938. Upon the outbreak of World War II, the subsequent invasion of France in 1940, the Dubonnet Xenia was hidden. It resurfaced again on June 9, 1946. In the 1960s, the car was bought and restored by Alain Blériot, president of the French Hispano-Suiza Club. In 1999, the car again changed hands, and D&D Auto Restoration in Covington, Ohio, restored the car for Charles Morse. We received this car in late fall of '99. Here it is in the winter. We have all the paint stripped on down. As you can see, the steel fenders with a lot of damage, a lot of things that need to be restored on the actual car itself. The Hispano-Suiza engine in the chassis with the body off now. Here's inside the cockpit area. You can see where the fuel tanks are with the transmission tunnel running up through the middle. It actually had a structure of the wood cut through, which we rebraced later. There you can see the filler neck for the tanks on either side here. Kind of see in the background of the lightweight body structure Sauchik, the coach builder, created. These are the under panels of the chassis, which actually make the car streamline on the bottom of the car. There's the wooden structure. As you can see, the straps. Very lightweight for a car of this period. You can see the wiring as it goes down the firewall and into the frame. This is a H6C engine with a 3-speed transmission. And the brake drums themselves, and you can see part of the Dubonnet suspension, which makes this chassis very special. There's some more of the chassis and the fuse block of the wiring. And here we go with the Dubonnet suspension. And here, of course, is the left rear. You can see the arm where the wheel mounts. And now you can see even some of the coils and the inserts that actually go in. This is an oil and coil filled unit. Here's the rear differential where he's actually working on the brakes. And there's a close-up of that. But you can see how the Dubonnet suspension actually sits on the chassis right here as one unit. There's 4 of these units on the actual chassis itself. Now you can see the exposed section of the rear chassis where those actually mount on top of the frame. Here's the H6B chassis that's been modified with Dubonnet suspension. It's a ladder-style frame. Here's your ring and pinion of the rear end. Dubonnet used this chassis as his display chassis. This was his platform to sell patent rights to various manufacturers around the world. A lot of manufacturers used his basic ideas or patent rights of the Dubonnet suspension. And here it is all restored and put onto the actual chassis. Here's the front of the car. We cut off the outside edges of the fenders so that we could get in the inside and actually smooth up all the various panels. It's very hard to get back inside there. And here's some of the metal work being done. This is the trunk lid. You can see the structure around it. Here's the bonnet or hood with the steel structure on the inside. Here's the engine block. Here's the firewall. You can see the large starter and the back of the bell housing. The wiring being done on the back side of the firewall. And here's the chassis finished. This is what Sauchik would have gotten to build the body on. The nickel-plated dash panel. Here it is before the body. You can see the body is ready to go on. We're hoisting the body onto the chassis. There, the body is on. Now we're pushing it over to the other building where we can do some more of the mechanical work and assembly. Now we start the process of continuing to put all the various pieces together. Here's the rear view of the interior of the car. You can see the brake cylinder in the inside by the transmission, the handbrake, brake, and clutch pedal, as well as the accelerator. Here's the rattan that's actually put on the steering wheel, putting the front end together. Now you can see some more finished photos of the car. Now you can see the nice wrapped around grill shell, the underside of the hood, the engine bay. We see the back end of the car all finished and detailed. A very streamlined design. You can see the tail lights and the exhaust match. Here's the underside front fender louver gills that were restored. And you can see how the sweeping lines all flow together. J. Sauchik was probably the best French coach builder. He was from Russia. His family fled from Ukraine before 1900. And Jacques Sauchik was one of the more important coach builders, probably one of the most expensive coach builders. What makes this particular design is that he built it with André Dubonnet, with a lot of aircraft influence, as you can see on all the various details. But Sauchik is mostly known for his teardrop shapes, but with a lot of chrome applique, which this car does not have. It's very clean in that sense. Here's the targa top that actually goes on the car. The wraparound windshield, which is very aviation, one of the first cars that actually had this. Here's the gull-wing styled window glass that actually tip out. You can't roll this up into the door, but this is very reminiscent of aircraft. The Bonnett Xenia was displayed at the 2000 Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance, where it won the award for Most Elegant Enclosed Car. It subsequently won Best of Show in the 2001 Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance. In 2003, the 1938 Hispano-Suiza Bonnett Xenia was sold to Peter Mullen and on display at the Model Automotive Museum in Oxnard, California.